Well, welcome to our podcast, everybody. This is the place we talk about everything having to do with school and kind of what we do. My name is Gabe Valenzuela. I get to lead the second year program here at BSSM in Redding, California. Been doing that for a while, and I get to do it with some amazing people. Two of the most amazing people I get to run with are here with me today. We're going to take some time to talk about leadership and how we develop people and all of those things. We hope to have a really great time. So why don't you join us? Before we get started, why don't you guys take a moment, introduce yourselves?
Yep. So I'm Steve Moore. I oversee the online school of ministry for us, which has 3 different languages. So we got Portuguese, Spanish, and English, and also oversee our online church with some other people. And then I have an operations role where I'm the chief operations officer for Bethel Church.
You're trying to be impressive right now. Is that what you're
I'm
trying
just
to do?
telling you what my actual role is.
Okay. Good. He does more than me, everybody. That's fine. It's fine.
And I'm Kris Vallotton, better known as His Majesty.
And Kris
is the most humble of all of our leaders.
And Kris has helped to lead the school
today.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Kris has helped to lead the school since its inception.
Yeah.
And you've been around forever, and you're everybody's boss.
And you were a part of the first class ever, too.
I was part of the first class ever.
And you didn't want them in there.
That's a longer story for another day.
We're not talking about
secret.
Yeah, we're not talking about that today.
Family secret.
Steve. Well, listen, we're going to get started. We're going to talk about leadership today. That's our focus, Steve, is leadership, not my problems. Our job in this environment really is to create and help to grow, develop leaders in the environment amongst lots of other things that we do. Our school is, I think, brilliant at that. And we have a kind of a focus that really rides all the way through first, second, and third year when it comes to leadership and development. And you do that in the online space. We do that, in the on-campus space. But what do you think, we talk about leadership, it's such a broad, big umbrella. What do you think the kind of qualities a person should have to make a great leader? When you hear that word, because it's a big word filled with lots of potential problems. Mm-hmm. When you hear leader, what makes a great leader?
People follow you. Next question.
This is going to be the fastest podcast. Great. People follow you. Steve, would you like to say anything else?
No, I mean, like I've had the privilege of being around a lot of great leaders, and I would say one of the foundational characteristics from great leaders has been humility, a heart to serve. When I think of leadership, I don't think about being in charge. I think about taking care of those people in your charge. So it's kind of a different mindset it's a bit like a shepherd with a flock is, yes, I'm the shepherd, but my role's not to be the star or the standouts, to raise up other people and make them be the standout. And so a lot of leadership looks to me is, Bill talks about building big people. We're not interested in building a big church, but building big people. And for me, I'm like, if you want to lift something big up, you got to get underneath of it to lift it up. If you liken it to weightlifting or something like that, like if you want to lift a heavy weight, you got to get under it to lift it up. So as a leader, I look at those that are continually looking to lift those up around them and to see them thrive, really. So, that's a gist of it, but there's so much more to it. But
yeah, I think that trust is the key for leaders. I think if you can't build trust, no one's going to follow you.
Yeah.
And I think you might have positional leadership, like you're the boss. But leadership isn't about being the boss, as Steve pointed out. Leadership is about people actually want to lead. Well, they want you to lead them. They actually want to follow you. And I love this phrase when Moses commissioned Joshua to be the new leader. God said, I want you to give him some of your authority. But that word authority is actually the word splendor. It's actually the word glory. It's actually the word majesty. And so people want to follow people that have favor on them, that have splendor on them, and that they can trust. The number one responsibility of a leader is to be trustworthy. And that means you have to do what you say you're going to do. And you have to be somebody that can when someone tells you their deepest, darkest secrets, that you keep confidentiality, that you know how to build trust with people who are not trusting, because we live in a really dangerous world where people have learned to not trust one another. I grew up like that. So I grew up, I mean, survival for me meant not trusting people. And so, I've had to learn how do you be kind of like the people whisperer? How do you gain the trust of very talented people who have survived by not trusting people? I think those are the elements of learning how to build trust. First of all, being trustworthy. If you're not trustworthy, everything else is just a smokescreen, So you have to first be a trustworthy person. But again, just because you're trustworthy doesn't mean that people will trust you. And so I think there's an actual art of teaching people how to trust and building a connection with people who have grown up in this, not, in this world of, it's kind of a dangerous world we live in. We're the most fatherless generation in the history of America. Many people have grown up without a dad. Many people have grown up in tough places. And so we have students coming from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And they don't trust anyone. And so, I think if you can be the kind of leader that can be like the people whisperer, and you can get people to trust you, then you can begin to pour in their life. But information doesn't change people. People aren't changed from the head to the heart. They're changed from the heart to the head. And until you win their heart, you're not leading them.
That's good.
And so I think the art of building trust is one of the key, most necessary, essential components of leadership. Yeah, and honestly, till you do that, I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of other things that I love to talk about more than trust, but until you can build trust, you're really not leading anyone.
It's true.
Can we talk through that actual art of trust building? What does that practically look like? How does someone cultivate that in their daily life? That piece, because I do get to see a lot of leaders in our role. We see lots of leaders, and leadership is for many people, I tell you what to do and you do it, or like you said, positional leadership, I get to be in charge of something big. There isn't a ton of that thing you just talked about, which is actually trust you to lead me. It's often very positional in nature. And you're right. We watch lots of students come between first year and second year, and they're not just handing over trust, right? They're not, we assign them.
Not in the environment we grew up in.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if you don't know our culture, we have pastors that get to lead our students, and, and that's a process really that our staff goes through. And there is those few students who come and they're like, here's my wallet, just spend my money any way you want, And then there's other students who come and they're like, here's a dime, and I'm, if you spend this dime well, I'll give you more. And it's a process for students. Yeah. Can you talk about that process with leaders and what that really looks like? Because I think this is really practical and really helpful.
Well, I think you have to love people, and people, and it's people have to feel it. And you may not be able to describe why you don't feel loved, but you know when you're not loved, and you also know when you're loved. So I think that you have to love people. And if you don't, all of us have a capacity to love. And I think you can expand your capacity to love people. And I think that, letting people know that, love looks like something. Heidi Baker's famous quote, love looks like something. Yeah. It's like, so what, how do people know you love them? Well, you care, you listen. Yeah. You're, as you pointed out, you're not, you don't, your agenda isn't making yourself great. Your agenda is making them great. And then I'll add this and let you guys jump in. I think authenticity helps a lot. Yeah. So, people, when you're authentic, when you are transparent and authentic, it opens up them to be authentic and transparent. So if you're always like, I'm the hero, I'm amazing, there's a leadership, 50 years ago in the religious world they literally taught in leadership schools, don't show weakness because people won't follow you. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's a very old way of leading. Now, I think people follow people whom they know are human, whom they can relate to. So, I've had 2 nervous breakdowns. It's terrible. Like, I would never wish that on people. And I think part of why people follow me is because they've had nervous breakdowns. So they have similar things. And they're like, I can relate to that guy. He's felt pain before. I know pain. He's authentic. He's honest. And I think honesty, authenticity, care, love, they build trust.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't think it's these big moments either. Like building trust is just little consistent things. For me, it's, when you're walking the hallway and someone's passing through and you go, oh, how's your day going? But then you don't wait for the answer. You just keep walking by. That speaks something. So like for me, when I can communicate value to them, if I ask you how your day is doing, I'm going to plan to stop and listen. And then if you're going to say, I'm going to engage with you. So it's the little moments that speak volumes to people. I liken it to brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
If you brush your teeth once, what does it do? Well, nothing really. It only works if you do it consistently twice a day, 3 times a day for 2 minutes at a time. So building trust is just little consistent moments all throughout the day where people genuinely know you care, that you're interested in them, you're invested in them. And it just takes, for some people, takes time. And to your point, there are some people that are like, I just trust you, right?
Yeah.
So that's easier. But a lot of those people, it's just, it's modeling. No, I'm actually real. My words line up with my actions. It's really important.
And people bond in battle.
Yeah.
So to your illustration, if someone says, oh man, I'm having a tough time, one of my kids, and then, the next day they get a text message from you, hey, prayed for you this morning. How's your kid doing?
Yeah.
Like that 20 seconds it takes.
You're amazing at that.
Well, I'm saying I've learned to be because some other people did it for me.
Yeah.
But that 20 seconds, maybe it takes a minute to text that person, builds a lifetime of trust.
100%.
You remembered, you prayed for me, you checked on me.
100%.
Man, you want to talk about, being the people whisperer. That's it right there. And Gabe, you're the king of that stuff. I mean, people, they love you. And again, I want to point out, people bond in battle.
Yeah.
So the best place to build trust is when someone's not doing well. And you come in, you don't have to be the hero. All you have to do is care.
Yeah.
There's lots of talent I don't have around people's problems. And I think in the early days before my second nervous breakdown, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go see John because I don't know what I'd say to him because I don't have the answer.
Right.
Jay maybe is good at that or you're good at that. And I'm like, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I got a phone call every day from my doctor every day for 6 months. That was shorter than 30 seconds. Changed my life. How are you doing? I'm not doing good. Okay. Well, you're going to be doing fine. I'm praying for you. I don't think we ever stayed on the phone more than 2 minutes. But I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. You just stay connected.
Yeah.
You just let people know in your pain, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer. I don't know what to do, but I'm not going to run from your pain.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned to be good at it because it saved my life. It literally saved my life. I probably would have taken my life. But knowing that people cared for me, and not just her, to my wife and other people, but that people being in the trenches with me in battle saved my life.
Wow.
That's amazing. I love this. You guys all sound like pastors right now. This is so great.
Lord, please don't put that title on me.
So great for me. You guys sound like pastors.
Lord, forgive me
who knew
for
pastors could be leaders too? That's awesome. No, we love that. Let's talk really quickly. You mentioned a whole bunch of really good things in there. But you talked about being connected, and I just want to talk through a little bit because I think I watch some leaders in the big umbrella of leadership, and they're like, "Oh, I'm growing people." And I go, you're not growing anybody. You just have a big title or a big church or a big something, but you're not actually that growing thing takes something that you talked about. It's, it's the mom in the park with her kids, like they're growing people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that piece.
Yeah, totally.
That I think sometimes if we talk about for us in school, one of our kind of secret sauces in school is that, that we try to do, and we're not batting 1,000, but we try as best we can to get that relationship with our pastors, our third-year students, and our first and second-year students, where there is a deep level of connection. Might not be the right word, because that connection word means lots of things to lots of people, but a deep sense of interaction with somebody where I get to see you, I get to know you. If you're in our school, you're going to actually see your leader every day that you're in school. And the level of interaction often is dependent upon how much you want it or how much they want it, but you're going to have a chance
exactly.
every day to see them multiple times a day. And so can we talk through that piece? Because there's a secret piece in there for me as a pastor and as a leader where I think growing people requires something that a lot of leaders, so to speak, with titles don't actually give.
Yep.
Can you talk through that? Because again, I can talk about this forever, but I tell people all the time, my most growing experiences I'll just use with Kris as an example with you. Well, I've heard a lot of your messages. I mean, I've been with you for 25 years of my life, I think. So lots of your messages and you're in school twice a week, so I get to hear you. I've probably heard you 3 times a week for almost my whole life.
Sorry, bro.
To be honest, so that's a lot. That's a lot of messages. I'm going to tell you right now.
So sorry.
Whew, you know what I mean? That's
Feel
a lot
bad for it.
Well, I could preach some, to be honest. So,
you could.
But when people ask
and
me,
all that many amazing messages,
it's hard.
Quite an effect on you. I noticed.
huge effect on my life. But here's what I will tell people, and it sounds so crazy because I don't know how to relate this well, but you've and I would say this honest in front of everybody, you've probably grown me more than anybody else in this environment because of our interactions together.
Yeah.
Good, bad, hard, amazing, all of it's true.
Ugly. You didn't say ugly.
I didn't say ugly on purpose, but thank you for that. Ugly, if you're watching, all those. The most growing experience I've had to do, never been me in the front row or sitting in an audience. It was outcry. It was a car ride to the airport. It was come to my house. It was a let's go to lunch. It was a do you want to go see a movie? It's those moments that have shaped me. We took a 3-hour ride to San Francisco at 1 a.m. because our plane got canceled to go somewhere, and I'll never forget that car ride. You had to go pick up a car one day, and after work, you're like, you want to go pick up a car in the city? And I was like, sure, where are we? Yeah, let's go. So, but it's those rides that help shape my life, really. Mm-hmm. I would like you to spend some time on that because I watch leaders lead without doing that. Yeah. And they think they have influence. They think they have development. They think they have growth and they just have position.
Yeah. I think, first of all, I think there are a lot of different kind of leaders. And I think there are leaders that, they're not very relational, and they're leading in a certain kind of way.
Sure. Yep.
And, they're integrous and honest, and maybe they build culture, but they're kind of introverted, quiet people. And then I think you can have those but the leaders but they can't do that by themselves. They have to build other leaders around them. They have to attract other leaders around them that can, as you point out, be in the trenches and can have a high capacity for relationship. Because otherwise, you end up with a movement that it's 10,000 miles wide and it's a quarter inch deep. So it takes the pastoral component. It takes in my mind, it takes the apostolic that build culture and often have vision, but it also takes the people that have high capacity to love people in a way that's felt and needed. And I think it takes it could take both. And not every leader that like Bill is leading an entire movement.
Yeah,
and he's a very quiet, introverted person, and he doesn't have high capacity for lots of conversations. And on the other hand, he has incredible capacity with his relationship with God to create culture. He's probably the greatest culture builder of our time, in my opinion. And but you can't just have that. Like, that's why it takes fivefold ministry.
Right.
It takes everybody to build a community. And I think that, the church wasn't built in a conference. It wasn't built in a convention. It was started in a covenant. And I think that one thing that has happened at Bethel that I think is beautiful is that we're built on a covenant, and it feels that you can feel it. Like, we don't always agree. We have the kind of conflicts that real people have.
Laugh. Yeah. Gosh.
We have, like, you have a real relationship with your friend. Like what does Proverbs say about a friend? Faithful are the wounds of a friend. I mean, it's like when you're wounded and you stay in friendship, that's when you grow. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Like, we have a culture of confrontation. We have a culture of, we preach to inspire you. We don't preach to convince you, which means we have people with lots of different opinions. But the other thing we have is we have real connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for some of it began, or at least was modeled, probably didn't begin with, Bill's family, my family. And we made a covenant. Kathy and I made a covenant to stay with Bill the rest of our lives. Year 3 when we were here. So that was 23 years ago. We've been with Bill 46 years. And so I think, understanding that this is a family first. It's a family. And it has all the dysfunctions of real families, because you've got lots of different personalities and everybody's got weaknesses, and you throw all those people together forever and everybody knows everybody. And you're like,
everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, they do. And then, you add, 3,000 students to that stew. And many, many, many of them have not come from family, and they're orphans, and they come into a family. And sometimes the challenging part, and I've just taught on this the other night, is sometimes we're teaching family principles to orphans. And when you teach a family principle to an orphan, they use it to control people instead of empower them. So, all the things we say, for example, we say that we believe in accountability. Well, that's a scary word for people who've been in an orphanage. Because if the people you're accountable to aren't trying to grow you and empower you, and they're trying to control you, accountability sounds like an authoritarian word.
Yeah.
Where you're going to tell me what to do. You're going to tell me how to live my life. But when you grow up with a father and mother whose goal is to grow you and empower you to be the best person you can be, you're like, I don't mind having an account for my ability, but I don't want to live in a community that's looking for what I've done wrong. Account for my disability. It's called accountability.
Yeah.
So all of those things, all those words are scary if you're outside of our community.
Yeah.
Because, people will say sometimes, like, Bethel's a cult. I'm like, if you were here for one day, you go, well, this is the worst cult ever. They don't control anybody here. They don't tell anyone what to think. They don't control anybody. It's like everybody's, it's like one day at Bethel would solve that problem right away. But we're just a big family, and I think we're mostly healthy family. As I pointed out, we all have things that can improve, and we're working on it. But I think overall, we're a healthy family.
Yeah. I think the point that you made there is you talked about father and mother. I think you and I could attest. The moments where I grew the most is when I felt like I was being fathered or mothered, not being led.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, you said it with your kids, I'm invested in the growth of my kids. So if my kids do something that I don't think is great behavior,
yeah,
I'm not like scolding them. And, there's moments where I'm like, I give them a look and they know, okay.
Yeah.
But my heart for them is like, hey, where you're going, you can't take that stuff with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember, like, there was a moment, we had a big meeting. I think it was one of our senior leadership meetings, and you were sharing something, and I spoke up and said something. I remember afterwards you pulled me aside and be like, hey, you need to understand, you don't understand how much people value your voice in that room. And sometimes you're too quick to speak. And when you speak without having all the information, that whole room will go along with you because of the trust that you have in that room. He's like, you need to be aware of that, because that's going to get you in trouble. And that's going to prevent you and your teams from being creative and innovative and explain. And I'll never forget that moment, because for me, it was just like, oh man, that didn't feel like a leader. That didn't feel like a hard, you're missing it. It was, you don't understand how powerful your voice is. So it was this correction, but it was this correction of, you need to know what's inside of you. Because if you don't realize what's inside of you, you're gonna cause your team to miss out on a lot of things.
Totally.
And I remember, I'll never forget that. And so there's moments where I'm still working at it, because I have ideas. I have the ideas. I'm passionate.
We all are working on it.
But
sure.
For that, it's like, oh yeah, where I'm going, I can't take that thing with me. And I need to understand that. And I think, to your point, the moments that our teams or our students or any of those moments have seen the most growth, I can trace it back to they grew because they allowed moments to father them or mother them. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to have, often people are like, well, how do I get a father? How do I get a mother? Yeah. And it's like, well, like some of you
choose me.
You just need to allow moments to father you and mother you.
Yeah.
If you don't have someone that's a mentor, that's okay. That's not the end of the world. You don't need a mentor or a father to grow, but look for those moments to be fathered and mothered, Yeah. So I think it's just that idea as a leader is, I'm actually kind of like a dad taking care of my kids. And it doesn't mean I present myself that way to everybody, but it's that mindset and heart of I want to raise you up in the way that you should go.
Totally.
I think that's good. I think that's probably a better way to say that, is the fathering and mothering piece, something we really value here.
Yeah.
Because I think to like Chris's point, like there's lots of different kinds of leaders. And, the same way I drove with you for 3 hours and we talked for 3 hours straight. I remember driving with Bill, which is a great privilege. I drove with him to Sacramento. And I always tell the story. It's kind of funny, but you got to know Bill this way. We drove. I think we spoke it's a 2.5 hour drive. I think maybe we talked for 5 minutes. If you add the whole conversation together, it was 5 minutes. And I'm not joking. This is the honest truth. We got out of the car at the church we were going to, got out of the car, and he turned around and goes, wow, that was a great drive. And I was like, awesome. This is so good. This is so good for me right now.
Caught it by osmosis.
So, but that is his personality, right?
Yeah,
and so
quiet.
He's quiet, but I do.
And he needs to be him.
Yeah, he has to be him. But what I do think is true across the board, which is probably a better way to say this, is, but Bill's a great father.
Yeah.
He's a great dad.
Great father.
And he is the guy I'm calling when I have 4 of his grandkids, right? Yeah. So he is the guy that I'm like, can I kill them? Like, is that the thing I can do right now? And he's full of wisdom and
he is,
and so I think you can have lots of different personalities as a leader, but I think one thing is true, which we're all talking about, is almost all great leaders I know are really good moms and dads to whoever they're in charge of. If true, and so whether it be 1, 2, 10, 12, they get to do that. So I think that's amazing.
I think, to your point, even with the car ride with Bill, is presence matters. And
the fact I got a car ride was kind of
no. What I mean by is sometimes just being in the presence of someone that cares for you, values you, has your best interests is enough. I'm even thinking through, there's times where I come home and I'm sitting down on the couch and my kids come over and they come and they just sit and they cuddle into me. And I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? And they're just like hanging out. They don't need me to say anything. They don't need me to do anything. They just want to be close. And it's amazing that when you can just show that you're available and present, sometimes that's so much, and with Bill, just being around Bill is enough, honestly. Like you can, you might not say something, but you can feel his value or love and appreciation in moments. And so that's what I'm talking about, is allow those moments to father you and mother you. Because we're a house built on the presence of God.
Totally.
But even on that other sense, as a leader, one of the most powerful things I can do is be present for my people. And that you're a great model of that. Ruth and I have gone through some really hard times where we've lost 5 babies. I have 3 beautiful kids, but we've lost 5 kids. Every time, this man and his wife, Kathy, without fail, text us every day. How you doing? Praying for you. Sending us flowers. Getting on a phone call. To your point, that experience of having that present, he didn't have to do a lot. And he didn't even have to do it. But Ruth and I will never forget those moments, because it was just the power of presence of I felt Kathy and I felt Kris present in my life. And that was enough. And it inspires me now to, if my people are going through that same thing, I want to pay it forward and do that exact same thing because I know the impact that it had on me.
Totally.
I think that's amazing. So, I think the point probably overall is if you're have a Bill personality, so to speak, maybe you're not the extrovert.
Yeah.
And maybe there's someone else who is. It's not about how many people you do that with. It's you do it with somebody.
It's real.
And that I think is valuable. We're in a process here, yes, at church, but in school even, as we talk about BSSM, where, in the early days, it was you and Bill basically in a room, and now if you come because the room has expanded, it's got a little bit bigger, and now we have online, which is actually, I hate to say it, it's larger online than my on-campus school.
2,167 students.
Yes, Steve reminds me almost every day that his school is bigger than mine. It's not a competition. When you're winning, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
But let's talk on the culture side, because we're actually trying to win, and we get to lead the school. And we would be honest, we've had these conversations. We know that it's the Lord's school. Like that's true, but it carries the heart of you and Bill, and our responsibility is to go, what would those guys do? How do they want that led?
Yeah.
Can we talk really quickly? Like, we're talking about leadership, but we have pastors now that you might not know as well as the ones you knew.
Yeah.
The first. I don't know if you do, but I'm just saying.
We have so many people. I don't even know they work for me.
We have
sometimes.
800 employees. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we have a lot. How do you perpetuate a culture, really, that we're talking about? Like, leadership looks like something, love looks like something. It's not just a grandiose word. You talk about leadership a lot, especially in second year. How do you have that culture actually be sustainable? Can we leave the audience that's listening with something practical that goes, here's what you can actually do to sustain this culture that we have? It'll go beyond, the one individual, or maybe even how to grow that culture.
Yeah.
Because often in environments, there's one guy who does that and he's doing it for everybody, and then he's dead. He can't, so
Totally.
How do we do that?
I think you teach what you know, but you impart who you are. And so you're going to reproduce not what you want to reproduce. You're going to reproduce what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to attract who you want. You're going to attract who you are. So I think that, it's important that, as we grow, so think about it. If you're, let's say 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest leader. If you're a 7 and you're insecure, the next person you're going to hire is going to be a 6 or lower. If you create a culture of insecurity, the person who's a 6 is going to hire a 5. And the challenge there is the larger you get, the weaker you are.
Yeah.
But if you're always empowering people and you're looking for people who are good at what you're not good at, which I think is Bill's genius.
Yeah.
We just pointed out, like, Bill's quiet, he's an introvert, but he's choosing people around him that are good at what he's not good at.
100%.
Because he's not insecure. And when you're not insecure, you can bring somebody in who's amazing at where you're not good at. And you're not like, wow, I feel terrible, because the better they are, it's like misery loves company. And this person makes me feel miserable because they're amazing and I'm not at that, So I think it's partly practically, when you're a small team, it's really important that you assess your strengths and assess your weaknesses. And you're like, okay, I'm not good at this, this, and this. And let's say if you're going to hire one, or, maybe not even hire, but bring on your team one more person, it's like, okay, so out of these 4 things I'm bad at, I suck at these things. Which ones of these things are the most important to build community? And, in Bill's case, he definitely needs a pastor, an extrovert, a pastor who has a high capacity for people in pain and, things he's not great at. And so that might be your next staff person, your next hire, because I'm not hiring me, I'm hiring, and I tend to attract me. So what I need, I'm not actually attracting. So I'm like, I have to go outside of my comfort zone and hire a Gabe, because I'm like, okay, I love people, but I don't have a ton of, gifts in helping them get well, and I don't have a ton of capacity for relationships. So I need to find my next hire is going to be someone who has high capacity for those things. And I may want Mary, who's the great preacher, but if I'm a great preacher, that's probably not my next person on my team because of the need I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for leaders to assess who they are and who they're not. And then, as your team grows bigger, now you can hire and bring on the team more people like you because all those places are filled. But until they're filled, you've got to really put people on the team who have different gifts than you do and different strengths. And then you have to realize that those strengths that they have, your greatest weakness is your strength overemphasized. So if you're bold, you could be brash. If you're courageous, you could be uncaring. And so if you're compassionate, you can be sympathetic instead of compassionate. Meaning that you take on, you work with the poor and you take on their attitude instead of help them change their attitude. So, just realizing like your strengths, your weaknesses are going to be your strengths overemphasized. And so I think you've got to be good at asking yourself, if you're the leader, especially on a small team, like the next move I make is going to be the most important move. The second move I make is going to be the second most important thing I do, because I'm building a team of people who, first of all, have to care for the community.
Yeah.
And so I can have this great teaching ministry, which we're seeing right now. Like, if you look at the internet, you got all these people with fantastic teachers. I mean, you can hear the best teaching in the world now. You got Jordan Peterson, who's, in the psychology world, just brilliant. You got T.D. Jakes. You got all these crazy good preachers. And preaching is so important, but preaching doesn't change the lives of people without community. And if you don't find people that can build community, you have a massive TED Talk.
Yeah.
And everybody's entertained, but nobody's actually changed. And I think truth is really important, but truth without community I won't say never, seldom changes people.
Yeah.
That's good.
And it's not just about looking for talent and ability. I remember, sitting with Bill and I asked him, hey, what are the main characteristics you look for in a leader? And he said, well, I would say humility. I would say comfortable in your own skin. I would say completely content. And I would say zero self-promotion. And when looking at those things, I'm like, oh, none of those have anything to do with ability. They're all heart postures.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's going through of, I'm not just looking for the skill set. I'm also looking for the culture fit. How's that going to affect the team? How's that going to affect our culture? If I bring this person in, is this going to help foster the culture that we have, or is there potential that it's going to break culture?
Yeah.
And I think Bill's modeled that brilliantly. Of he's more interested in people that are going to carry not just the vision, but the culture of the house. And I think that's something that we do really brilliantly as a team, is we protect that culture that's been set by you and him.
Awesome.
I mean, just to clarify, you still need talented people.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
No, I mean, I know you're not saying we don't. I just want, because we're trying to help people build something. It's like, I still need, I can't have a worship leader who can't sing.
No, that's a bad plan.
Or I can't
we have tried that before.
I could try it.
Yeah,
we could try it out.
No, I'm saying, I think this house does a good job of finding excellence.
Oh, 100%.
Inside of all the things you just said.
Yeah.
And has a high value for, whatever you do it with all your heart. You do it with all your mind, and you strive for not perfection, but you strive for excellence. So if you're a teacher preacher, you give yourself to it. You study. You work hard at it. You as Paul said to Timothy, you give your heart to it.
Yeah.
You don't just do it. You don't come unprepared.
Yeah.
If you're a worship leader, you give your heart to the Lord. You practice your instrument. You like, we have a high value for doing what you do really well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't qualify you by itself.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
To your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're all just doing the best we can. We're trying our hardest to do well. If you watched today and you enjoyed it, here's my hope is that you got a little insight to what we do in our world in BSSM, how we lead people, how we grow people. Hopefully it gave you some
school in the world.
Best school in the world. Hopefully it gave you some encouragement, really, to know that this is the honest truth. If we can do it, you can do it. And it just takes a yes. And if you'd like to know more, if you'd like to experience actually this leadership in person, come to school. It's an amazing place. We love it, and it's where we've grown. It's helped to shape us as leaders, and we think it's amazing. BSSM is awesome.
Yeah, but do the online school, not the on-campus school.
I'm
totally joking.
Here we go.
Come on,
unbelievable. Well, we love you guys. Thank you, Kris. Thanks, Steve. We appreciate you guys so much.
God bless you guys.
We love you. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. We hope that it really impacted your life. And if it did, would you take a moment just to like, subscribe, maybe share it with your friends? And if you want to know more about BSSM, we would love to have you check out our website, bssm.net. We are an amazing 3-year school of supernatural ministry. You can go to 1, 2, or 3 years. You can be any age. We have people that are right out of high school up to grandmothers and grandfathers and everything in between. We think this school is going to change your life. You're going to be around like-minded believers. You're going to pursue the Lord. You're going to be around the most amazing moments in worship, in prayer. You're going to be in your word. You're going to take the most amazing classes. Why don't you check us out online? Thank you so much for joining us today. Be blessed.
I remember the Lord asking me, if all you had were these 4 children, would it be enough to disciple? Would that be enough? And I said, no, Lord, you've told me I have this teaching gift, and you're going to take me places, and I'm going to reveal you to people. And he comes back and he says, if you only had these 4 children, would it be enough? And I wrestled with that for a while. We all want to do great things for the Lord. And I remember having this moment, like, it's more than enough. They're more than enough. My name is Allison Lopez. I'm from Ventura, California. I did first and second year BSSM online, and I am now alumni. Before BSSM, life was boring, and I was going through the motions. Slowly but surely, there was a wall between the Lord and myself, and I wanted to reconnect. I wanted purpose. I wanted to hear his voice. I wanted connection. I wanted him, and I was hungry. So I joined online. I can remember my first experiences with BSSM online. Encountering the Lord was immediate. It was immediate. I remember somebody in my small group sharing how they encountered the Lord, and I said, if that's you, if that's real, you have to do it to me too. And I began to feel the manifest presence of God. I just remember being in it. And my kids were in it too. They were there, and they were feeling something and seeing me be touched and experiencing the Lord as well. Years back, I remember asking the Lord, can you give me somebody to disciple? Can you just give me somebody to disciple? Anybody, Lord, just show me. You've shown me so much. I want to teach people about you. And he said, I gave you someone, his name is Atticus. And my son, his name is Atticus. He was 18 months at the time. Whatever else I've called you to, that I've told you, that I've spoken into, that will never come before your children. I remember the Lord asking me, if all you had were these 4 children, would it be enough to disciple? Would that be enough? And I said, no, Lord, you've told me I have this teaching gift, and you're going to take me places, and I'm going to reveal you to people. And he comes back and he says, if you only had these 4 children, would it be enough? And I wrestled with that for a while. We all want to do great things for the Lord. And I I remember having this moment, like, it's more than enough. They're more than enough. I couldn't save them from the world. And I can't even now, but I can equip them. And I can teach them everything that I have. I will give to them. Everything that I know. It is my job. It's my job that they take what I have. Everything that I know, and they run with it. They run with it. They run with the Lord. He saw me. There are so many things that I do that nobody will ever see, and nobody will ever know. What I do every day for my children. But He sees it all. And I am walking, living, breathing testimony that God sees, that He is real, and He wants to encounter you. Every single one. Every single mom, single or married, stay at home or working. He sees, and He wants every heart.